This is Mac OS Ken.
iPhone looks set to break pricing records, a change for Oprah and Apple TV Plus, and Cook & Company take London. It is Tuesday, the 27th of September, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Trade Coffee. Get $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. A crazy not crazy assertion from Counterpoint Research by way of the Financial Times. According to the research firm, according to the paper, Apple is going to break its record for iPhone average selling price in the September quarter, then it's going to do it again in the December quarter. Counterpoint figures iPhone ASP will hit a record $892 for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2022, followed by an ASP of $944 for the first quarter of fiscal year 2023. This makes sense. iPhone 14 Pro orders and sales only account for 2 or 3 weeks of the September quarter. While they seem to have driven iPhone ASP up, they had very few weeks in which to do that. The December quarter will be the first full quarter of iPhone 14 Pro sales, giving it a full 3 months to drive up ASPs. Of course, that assumes that most iPhones sold will be on the Pro end. Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani seems to see that as a safe assumption. The analyst cites a recent survey of 4,000 folks. Of those likely to buy an iPhone, 56% plan to go Pro. That's up from 41% last year, according to the report. Financial Times had Daryanani increasing his firm's iPhone revenue estimates for the next 4 quarters on the back of stronger than expected ASPs. Mr. Daryanani has a positive rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $190. Loving every minute of everything he's seeing from iPhone 14 is Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives. A piece from Yahoo Finance has Mr. Ives commenting on iPhone sales, ASPs, and Apple's recent stock performance, judging sales for Apple's latest iPhone to be skewing 85% to 90% for the Pro end. Figures iPhone ASPs are 8% to 10% better than this time last year. While sales may drop, at least so far, it seems to him that supply is more the issue than demand. Despite how good orders are looking for iPhone 14 Pro and Apple Watch Ultra, Apple shares have been caught in the September sell-off. Apple shares are down about 8% in the past month, according to Yahoo Finance, bringing the year-to-date drop to 15%. That is a bit much for Mr. Ives. Such numbers indicate a coming 5% to 7% numbers cut on Apple's part. I just don't believe you're going to see it, says Ives, based on what we are seeing today. Mr. Ives has a positive rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $220. India's iPhone 14 production has ramped up ahead of schedule. Well, ahead of the latest schedule anyway. In early August, TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo hit Twitter saying it looked to him like Foxconn would start producing iPhone 14 in China and India almost simultaneously, something they have never done before. Didn't stick, though. On the 1st of September, he hit Twitter again, saying the iPhone 14's mass production schedule in India this year is still about 6 weeks behind China, but the gap has improved significantly. May have stuck? The piece published Monday in Bloomberg says Apple began making its new iPhone 14 in India sooner than anticipated, after a surprisingly smooth production rollout that slashed the lag between Chinese and Indian output from months to mere weeks. It's hard to know whether Ming-Chi Kuo's expectation was met or bested. The Bloomberg piece had that publication expecting iPhone 14 production in India to start a couple of months after the iPhone's launch. that expectation was certainly beaten. While it's possible that the TF International analysts' expectations were beaten as well, we would have to know exactly when iPhone 14 production kicked off in China to be certain. Apple has confirmed the Bloomberg story with almost no detail. The company simply told the site, "We're excited to be manufacturing iPhone 14 in India." India's Navratri festive season is underway, and Apple is offering significant discounts for it. Cult of Mac says the Cupertino company is offering a discount of 7% on purchases of at least 41,900 rupees, roughly $513 US. This is for purchases made through Apple's online store on the subcontinent. Cult of Mac says it is rare for Apple to offer discounts on its products through its online store. With this offer, the company is trying to capitalize on the festive season, where smartphone shipments usually peak for all manufacturers. No doubt the company is trying to capitalize in a festive season, though it's one that some worry will not be as festive as seasons past. While searching online to learn more about India's festive season, the first article I came across was one from Quartz lamenting a festive season without the spirit. It's not a piece overly concerned with spirit nor festivities, but with economics. Quoting that piece, Indian consumers tempered by inflation and with their hopes dashed by an erratic monsoon may not spend heavily this coming festive season. Some 35% of them do not plan to spend anything at all, according to a survey by social community platform Local Circles. Out of the remaining 65% who may, the budget was 10,000 rupees, or about $123 US. The comparable figure for 2020 was 15,000 rupees, or about $184. And now, two things you probably don't want to do with your Apple Watch Ultra. Thing one, just because you can open the watch up relatively easily does not mean you should. Apple Insider has word of a teardown of the device by iFixit. Don't let the screws on the thing fool you. The screen looks challenging to repair, according to the report, with the test model breaking even under the professional hands of iFixit. The fix-it-yourself folks have not published a full teardown. The Apple Insider piece was written based on a video teardown, which you can catch on YouTube. iFixit does not appear to have given Apple Watch Ultra a 1 to 10 reparability score at this point. Thing two, you probably shouldn't do with your Apple Watch Ultra. Just because you can beat the bleep out of it with a hammer does not mean you should. Cult of Mac writes up the smackdown delivered to Apple's $800 watch by YouTuber TechRax. Yes, that is the same TechRax who tested iPhone 14 Pro's crash detection feature last week. For Apple's rough and tumble wearable, TechRax dropped it face down on concrete. That produced minor scratches to the case, but no hit to functionality. He then shook the watch inside a jar of nails. Again, no hit to performance. And so, out comes the hammer. As a more extreme test, says the cult, the YouTuber repeatedly slammed the Apple Watch Ultra's face with a hammer, and surprisingly the wearable survived them all, initially. In fact, the table on which the test was being done broke first. Eventually, the piece says the watch stopped working, a few more whacks, and the sapphire crystal glass shattered. That's kind of incredible, actually. The watch stopped working, then the glass broke. Kind of trippy. You can see TechRax put the hammer down repeatedly on YouTube. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Trade Coffee. When's the last time you had a new to you, truly wonderful cup of coffee? I get a new one every couple of weeks with Trade Coffee. It's a coffee subscription service unlike anything you've tried before, because they partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffees in the country straight to you on your preferred schedule. The coffees are great, as are the personalities of the roasters. That may not make sense, but you get a few bags and you start to look forward to getting to know the businesses as well as the coffees they're sending. Now, for you medium roast fans out there, Trade has put together a macOS Ken collection from some really great roasters. Peixoto, Airship, Huckleberry. Independent roasters with unique personalities turning out some delicious roasts. If that's not your thing, don't worry. Trade will have whatever it is you want. You can shop their most popular coffees by roast or flavor profile, or you can take their coffee quiz like I did and get expertly matched with coffees you will love. So if you want to support small businesses and brew the best cup of coffee you have ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering macOS Ken listeners a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/macOSKen. That's drinktrade.com/macOSKen for $30 off your subscription to coffees I am sure you are going to love. That's drinktrade.com/macOSKen for $30 off. And thanks to Trade Coffee for sponsoring today's show. The queen of all media and the all things eye maker are modifying their relationship. 9to5Mac highlights a report from the media site Puck that says the big multi-year deal between Oprah Winfrey and Apple TV Plus is not being renewed. Oprah has produced a few titles for the Cupertino streamer since their deal was signed in 2018. Among them are the Me You Can't See, the Oprah Conversation, Oprah's Book Club, Oprah Talks COVID, and Sidney, the documentary about actor and activist Sidney Poitier that debuted last week. Her deal with Apple was not exclusive. Still, indications in the piece are that Cupertino was disappointed that some of her biggest gets, including her Harry and Meghan interview and her special about singer Adele, went to other outlets. As Puck puts it, though, that's the deal they made. And Apple at least got a perception boost out of signing Oprah back in 2018 when Netflix and Amazon both wanted her. She was key in vouching for the nascent Apple TV Plus at that weird celebrity cattle call in Cupertino back in March of 2019, months before the service launched. They're in 1 billion pockets, y'all. 1 billion pockets, she said, instantly explaining why so many top artists would sign on to Apple sight unseen. While the big deal may be dead, little deals may persist. The piece says that Apple TV Plus and Oprah will work together on a project-by-project basis, though the days of the very expensive press release are said to be over. A bit of a parting shot from the Apple-Oprah content deal. Sidney, that documentary I mentioned about Sidney Poitier, produced by Oprah for Apple TV Plus, did start streaming last Friday. To celebrate that, another piece from 9to5Mac says Apple's streaming service is making 5 of Poitier's films available to watch at no additional cost. You do have to be an Apple TV Plus subscriber, and the free views are limited to folks in the U.S. The 5 titles are A Raisin in the Sun, To Sir with Love, To Sir with Love 2, Little Nikita, and Buck and the Preacher. The easiest way to find the films is to go to the Poitier documentary, then scroll to the bottom of the page. The films will be free to view until the end of October, according to 9to5Mac. And finally today, if you follow Apple CEO Tim Cook on Twitter, you have seen a few interesting sights around London over the past couple of days. On Sunday, Apple CEO posted a pic and a message from Apple Store in Covent Garden. The message said simply how good it was to be back in London and thanked everyone for the warm welcome. Of course, Apple has more than one store in the area, and Cook did hit a couple more, posting pics from Apple Brompton Road and Regent Street. Monday, Cook tweeted about a partnership between Apple and South Bank Centre. The partnership, Apple's first racial equity and justice initiative in the UK, will see the two organizations support emerging black creatives in the United Kingdom. Later on Monday, Apple CEO teased the Cupertino company's Battersea Power Station renovation, calling the reno a tribute to London and a reflection of the company's commitment to Apple's future in the UK. The post featured artist renderings of what the refinished facility will look like on the inside. This deal has been a long time coming. First announced in 2018, a piece from Apple Insider says plans had been for workers to start working there by 2021, but, plans and the last couple of years. Cook's tweet says the work move-in is set for early 2023. And he is not done. Another Twitter post had Cook meeting today with the class of all-female founders at Apple's first Foundations program in the UK. That was followed by another tweet that had the CEO and Apple's Lisa Jackson taking in a performance of musicians supported by Apple at the company's Platoon Studios. Probably the most meta post of them all, though, was on Monday. That one had members of the cast of Ted Lasso and members of Apple's executive team in a box at the AFC Richmond Stadium, cheering as if they had just seen the game-winning goal. Eddie Q and Lisa Jackson really look like they just saw something. It's kind of crazy. On today's Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, TMO managing editor Jeff Butts and I look at iPhone's rising ASP, iPhone production in India, and the apparent parting of ways between Apple and Oprah. That is all today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. Speaking of which, I got to be on the radio in the Bay Area Monday morning. Longtime friend Rob Black had me on at a time of day that I personally find ungodly. I think it went well, though. Feel free to find out for yourself. The show does get turned into a podcast. That podcast is called The Rob Black Show. You can find it at robblack.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Trade Coffee. Get $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.